I missed my flight, but I made my connection. I'm sitting here waiting to board a flight. I missed my flight. I had to go to the service desk at, I think it was gate D24. So I ran over to D24 and these wonderful ladies helped me work through the whole system. And I'm just so grateful. It's amazing. Gratitude, thankful that those ladies were able to work everything out for me. So a huge shout out to Maria and also to American Airlines. Another thing is, if you miss a flight and you get rebooked on an airline, just ask them for free food, because a lot of times they'll give you a voucher. So they're gonna hook me up with a voucher in LA that I get to eat during my 6-hour layover that I get to enjoy. So times are good, right? But I wanna tell you a story about something else that happened while I was in Dallas, while I was waiting. I decided to go to 7-Eleven and just grab a cheap coffee. I'm walking around 7-Eleven and all of a sudden I noticed this guy, he's pouring his coffee between 2 cups, you know, like sometimes you see those flashy guys, they dump their coffee into one and they go really high and low and then they go back up. Yo, what's up? Awesome. So I missed my flight, but I made my connection, right? I walk up behind this guy. I walk up to this guy and I see him making coffee. He's handing stuff back and forth. He's dumping the coffee cups back and forth, right? And I say, you look like a professional barista. And he goes, well, I make coffee like they do in India. So I start asking him, well, how do they do this? Can you teach me? So he starts telling me and he shows me the different steps that he's doing. And the reason why is because when you dump the coffee back and forth, you actually get these bubbles to rise and the pouring back and forth actually adds a full-bodied flavor. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get a cup. Will you teach me how to make it? So he shows me all the steps. He keeps commenting about how old he is, and so I start asking him questions like, you from here originally or whatever? And he's like, I'm from Silicon Valley in India. So I'm like, okay, sweet. And he's like, that's Bangalore. Then the guy tells me he's in northern India, they're more about tea, and in southern India, they're more about coffee. And the reason is because I mentioned that I have a friend who lives in Chandigarh, which is in northern India, close to New Delhi. He shows me how to pour the coffee. And then I'm getting really good distance, and he's like, wow, you're really good. So I'm like, hey, I got a secret to tell you. I have a cafe in Taipei. And he's like, no. And he swears, and he's like, no wonder you're so good. So he helps me finish making my coffee, and I'm having a good time with him. And then I ask him, so how do you say cheers? But he's like, most people would just say cheers anyway. So we just cheers it, you know, and as he's walking away, he says, see you on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. So I go ahead and I'm through everything, you know, and I'm in line. Actually, I come up in line behind him, and he starts telling me his story. So he was like a professional high-level banker in India, and he had all this stuff figured out. When he moved to the States to do banking, they had all the computer systems they were putting in. And this was like in the 70s. They started putting computer systems in, and he can't keep up with it. So he ends up having to work some other job. It's a fascinating story, this guy. And he's been all around the world. Now he's in Dallas, Texas, teaching this random guy in the 7-Eleven how to make coffee Indian style. As we're getting closer to the line, he says, let me have the honor of paying for your coffee. And I was like, no, you can't do that. But you know what? When your elders tell you what to do, you gotta shut up. So he tells me all this stuff, and he's like, okay, let me buy your coffee. And I'm like, all right, okay. I was gonna try to buy your coffee, but you win today. When it comes to my time in Dallas, when it comes to all this, I missed my flight, but I made my connection. So even if you miss your flight, even if you're not even sure if you're in the right place you're supposed to be, you can still make a connection.